A shocking outburst on stage shatters harmony. Jimin screams at Jungkook mid-concert, freezing an entire stadium in tension and controversy. "Don't you dare lie to me right now, Jungkook!" Jimin's voice tore through the air, cutting into the roar of thousands of fans who seconds ago were chanting in unison. The crowd's cheers collapsed into a deafening silence as every head turned, unsure if this was part of the performance or something far more dangerous. Jungkook stood motionless, his breath short, his microphone still live. "You think this is the right time, Jimin? In front of everyone?" His words were sharp, clipped, a warning laced with desperation. "Yes," Jimin shouted back, "because you never talk off stage. You run, you hide, and you pretend nothing's wrong. But tonight," his voice cracked, not from weakness, but from fury boiling too long. "Tonight, you don't get to hide." The fans gasped, their screams turning into scattered murmurs. Managers at the edge of the stage scrambled, but none dared interrupt. The two idols faced each other as if the entire stadium had melted away. "Don't push me into this corner," Jungkook growled. "You don't even know the whole story." "Then tell me." Jimin's demand rang out like a challenge. "Tell me why you betrayed everything we built. Why you kept secrets from all of us. From me." Jungkook clenched the microphone, his tone darkening. "Because you wouldn't survive the truth." The words hung heavy in the air. The audience, once electric with joy, now felt trapped in a cage of suspense. Even the band's instruments fell silent, as if the music itself had abandoned them. "You think I'm fragile?" Jimin spat back. "You think I can't handle what you're hiding? Do you even realize how insulting that is? I trusted you more than anyone, Jungkook. More than myself. And you—" He paused, his breath shuddering as if weighing whether to strike harder. "You treated me like a stranger. Because if I told you," Jungkook muttered, his voice shaking between defiance and regret, "everything would collapse. Not just us. All of this." He gestured vaguely, his words aimed at the unseen machinery of fame, contracts, and secrets binding them. Jimin's laugh was bitter. "Collapse? Do you hear yourself? It already has. Look around you. This moment you destroyed it, not me." The crowd erupted into chaos, fans crying out, some begging for answers, others screaming for them to stop. But Jimin refused to yield. "You made me carry the weight of your silence," he pressed on. "And now you want me to believe it was for my own good? No, that's not love, that's not loyalty, that's cowardice." The word struck Jungkook like a blade. His reply was low, but every syllable dripped with venom. "You don't understand what it cost me to keep this secret. I bled for it. I sacrificed everything for you." "For me?" Jimin's eyes widened with disbelief, his voice trembling with rage and heartbreak. "Then tell me, Jungkook. Say it here now. What truth could possibly justify ripping apart everything we built?" Silence. Jungkook's lips parted, but no words came. His eyes darted, as if fighting a war inside his own mind. The stadium was suspended in breathless stillness, every fan waiting, hoping, dreading the next revelation. Jimin's voice broke the quiet once more, softer this time, but sharper in pain. "You think silence is protection, but it's poison, and I refuse to drink it anymore." Jungkook's knuckles whitened around the mic. His jaw tightened. For the first time, his voice faltered. "If I tell you, Jimin, you'll hate me forever." Jimin stepped closer, his anger shifting into raw desperation. "Then give me the chance to decide. Don't steal even that from me." The audience began chanting, some crying out Jimin's name, others Jungkook's. The entire stadium fractured by the confrontation. The sound rose and fell like waves crashing against a fragile shore, threatening to drown both men. Jungkook's chest heaved as he finally forced the words out. "Fine. You want the truth? The betrayal wasn't mine. It was yours, Jimin, and you don't even know it yet." Jimin froze, his mouth half open, the accusation echoing louder than the crowd's screams. "Mine?" His voice rose again, incredulous, trembling with fury. "You dare turn this on me? After all the lies you fed me, after every night I begged for an answer and you gave me nothing but silence, you're calling me the traitor?" Jungkook didn't flinch. His tone cut like a blade. "You think you're innocent? You think you're clean in all this? Tell them, Jimin. Tell them about the meetings you hid from us, about the messages you erased, about the deal you struck behind closed doors." The entire stadium erupted, fans shrieking in disbelief, their voices cracking into questions, rumors, Conspiracies, suspicions, all of it swelled like fire catching dry wood. The manager screamed into earpieces, but neither idol stopped. They were trapped inside their storm. Jimin's hands trembled around the mic. You're twisting everything. I did what I had to for us. For the group. For survival. You think I wanted that? You think it was easy to sit across from them, knowing I was selling a piece of my soul just to keep us standing? Then why didn't you tell me? Jungkook roared. Why did you make me believe I was the one betraying us, when all along you were the one cutting deals in the shadows? Do you know what that did to me? Do you even care? The fans screamed louder. The sound no longer celebratory but bloodthirsty, desperate for answers to a drama unraveling live before them. Jimin's voice cracked, heavy with anger and something darker. Because I knew you'd never forgive me. I knew if you saw how dirty it was, how ugly it got, you'd turn your back on everything. I carried it alone because I thought you'd rather hate me than see the truth. And guess what, Jungkook? I was right. You don't get to decide for me. Jungkook thundered, his voice nearly breaking. You played God with my life, with our future. You kept me in the dark like some child who couldn't handle reality. Do you know how humiliating it is to realize the person I trusted most thought I was too weak to bear the truth? Jimin's laughter was harsh, bitter, almost cruel. Weak? You want to talk about weak? Then let's talk about the nights you disappeared, the substances you drowned yourself in when it all got too heavy. Do you want me to drag those secrets out right here, in front of them? He gestured toward the fans, their screaming now a chaotic orchestra of shock and disbelief. The managers rushed closer, but Jungkook snapped, his voice like thunder. Don't you dare. You think you'll destroy me with the truth? No, Jimin. If this stadium wants blood, let them have yours first. Jimin stepped forward, the space between them charged with fury. Say it then. Say what you've been holding back. Say the one thing that keeps you up at night. Let's burn it all down together. Jungkook's jaw tightened. His words came out in a whisper, yet carried louder than any scream. Fine. You want it? Here it is. You weren't just negotiating for the group, Jimin. You were negotiating for yourself. For a solo future without us. Tell them how you signed your name before anyone else. Tell them how you planned your escape while pretending to fight for us. The audience's collective gasp nearly broke the air. Fans shouted accusations, disbelief, and pleas all at once. Some cried Jimin's name, others Jungkook's. But none could ignore the explosion that just shattered their world. Jimin's breath hitched, his face paling at the exposed truth. You think I wanted a future without you? His voice cracked with something dangerously close to despair. You think I could even imagine standing alone while you... His words caught, but his anger surged back like a tidal wave. You're not innocent, Jungkook. If I signed, it's because they forced me. Because they threatened everything. You think you suffered? You don't know the half of what I endured. Jungkook's reply came swift, merciless. Then prove it. Tell them what you sold. Tell them what you gave away to save yourself. Jimin closed his eyes for a moment, the crowd's roar swallowing the silence between words. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw, unfiltered. I gave them the rights to your name. The stadium screamed as if the earth itself had cracked open. Fans fainted, some cursed, others sobbed. But none could believe the confession that fell from Jimin's lips. Jungkook staggered back, his chest heaving. You! What? His voice broke, disbelief crashing into rage. You sold me? My identity? My existence like it was just another bargaining chip? Jimin's tears were invisible in the chaos, but his voice was firm. I did it to protect you. To protect all of us. If they took me, fine. But they wanted you too, Jungkook. And I couldn't let them own you. So I gave them my name myself in exchange for you. But Jungkook shook his head violently, his fury boiling over. Don't dress betrayal as sacrifice. You lied. You hid it. And now you expect me to thank you for it? Jimin's voice collapsed into something broken. No. I expect you to hate me. And I'll take it. But don't ever say I didn't love you enough to ruin myself for you. The silence that followed was unbearable, thick with betrayal, heartbreak, and truths too ugly to be contained. ChatGPT belang, Jungkook's laugh erupted bitter, jagged, laced with venom. Love? Don't twist that word to justify what you did. You don't betray someone and then call it love. You don't sell pieces of my life to monsters in suits and then tell me it was for my own good. That isn't love, Jimin. That's control. That's ownership. And maybe that's all I ever was to you, a name you could trade when things got ugly. Jimin's voice cracked like a whip, fury burning in every syllable. Don't you dare! Don't you dare accuse me of using you! I gave up everything, my dreams, my freedom, my dignity, just to make sure you didn't become their slave. Do you have any idea what they threatened me with? Do you even know the kind of contract they shoved in my face? The kind of humiliation they promised to smear across your name? I took it all so you wouldn't have to. You still chose lies, Jungkook shot back. You decided for me, like I was incapable of standing in the fire with you. You treated me like some porcelain doll that would shatter under pressure. That's not protection, Jimin. That's arrogance. The fans screamed themselves hoarse. The stadium fractured into chaos. Some shouted for Jimin, others for Jungkook. Some begged for them to stop before everything collapsed completely, yet neither idol pulled back. Jimin's voice rose, trembling, emotional but merciless. Arrogance. You want to talk about arrogance? Then explain the nights you vanished, the deals you struck in secret with people worse than the company. Do you think I don't know about the meetings, the whispered promises? Do you think I don't know what you did to secure your own freedom? The stadium gasped, shock slicing the air like a blade. Jungkook's jaw tightened, his voice low and lethal. Careful, Jimin. If you drag that into the light, you'll burn too. Then burn me, Jimin snapped. Burn both of us. Because the truth is filthier than anyone out there can imagine. You want them to worship us as saints while behind the curtains we're bargaining with devils? Fine. Tear it all down. Show them who we really are. Jungkook's eyes narrowed, his tone dark and provocative. You really want me to? You really want me to tell them about the contract soaked in blood? About the price of fame we paid with our own bodies? Our sanity? Our innocence? You want me to spit it all out here, now, live? The crowd erupted in panic. Some screamed for him to stop. Others begged for him to speak. Torn between devotion and dread, Jimin's reply came fierce, reckless. Do it. Tell them. Because I'm done living a lie. If they want idols, let them choke on the truth of what it costs. Let them see the dirt under the gold. Let them see the chains hidden beneath our glitter. Jungkook exhaled sharply, his body trembling with rage and defiance. You think they'll forgive you, Jimin? You think exposing this will make you a martyr? No. They'll crucify you. They'll destroy everything you've built, everything you sacrificed. You'll be remembered not as the savior you imagine, but as the traitor who dragged us all into the mud. Jimin's laughter was sharp, provocative, filled with a dangerous kind of liberation. Good. Let them call me a traitor. At least I'll finally be free. At least I won't rot in silence anymore while everyone worships an image that never existed. The manager screamed from the sidelines, threatening to cut the feed, but the microphone still carried every raw, jagged word. The fans' cries rose higher, hysteria spreading like wildfire. Jungkook leaned forward, his words slow, deliberate, like venom dripping. You're not a martyr. You're not even brave. You're just selfish. You didn't save me, Jimin. You saved yourself from guilt. You couldn't stand to face me to tell me the truth, so you wrapped your betrayal in ribbons and called it sacrifice. Jimin's voice cracked, but his anger flared hotter. If I were selfish, I would have left you to drown. If I were selfish, I would have signed my escape and never looked back. But I didn't. I stayed. I carried your name, your pain, your silence. Don't you dare call that selfishness. Don't you dare erase what I gave up for you. Jungkook's reply cut deeper than a blade. Then tell me the one thing you're still hiding. The thing that keeps you awake when the lights are off and the fans are gone. Because I can smell it on you, Jimin. The secret you've never dared to speak. Say it. Say it now before I do. The stadium roared, a tidal wave of voices demanding answers. Jimin's chest heaved as he struggled with words, his voice breaking into a confession that bled with pain. The secret is that I never wanted this life. I never wanted any of it. Not the fame, not the lights, not the fans screaming our names. All I wanted was you. And when they told me I had to choose between you and the world, I chose you, even if it meant selling my soul. That's my sin, Jungkook. I loved you more than I loved the truth. The silence that followed was explosive, heavier than any scream. The fans shrieked in disbelief, some sobbing, others cursing. The entire stadium splintered into madness. Jungkook staggered, his breath catching. For the first time, His voice wavered. You loved me? Jimin's laugh was broken, raw. Pathetic, isn't it? The great Jimin, idol of millions, begging for the love of someone who can only see betrayal in my shadow. That's the ugliest truth of all. Not the contracts, not the lies, not the deals. Just this, that I was a fool in love with you. The stadium shattered into hysteria. The line between performance and reality obliterated. Fans screamed, fainted, tore at banners, some chanting denial, others crying confessions of their own. The managers rushed in, but the damage was done. Jungkook's voice cracked like fire against stone, sharp, almost dangerous. You think love excuses everything? You think you can stand here, scream that word, and erase the blood on your hands? Love isn't a shield, Jimin. It's your weapon. You used it to manipulate me, to bind me, to keep me blind while you fed the machine with pieces of us? Jimin's reply came like a roar, unfiltered, furious. You're wrong. I didn't use love as a weapon. I used it as the only truth I had left when everything else was a lie. You think I wanted to trade your name, your freedom? I wanted to burn their empire to ash, Jungkook. But you, he inhaled sharply, voice rising like a wound tearing open. You were the only reason I stayed. I didn't endure the humiliation for fame. I endured it because losing you terrified me more than losing myself. The crowd shrieked as the words bled out. Fans clutching at each other, torn between horror and ecstasy, at hearing confessions that shattered the perfect idol narrative they worshipped. Jungkook's tone darkened, low but booming enough to split through the hysteria. Then why didn't you just tell me? Why didn't you give me the choice? Wasn't I worth the truth? Or did you like playing God with my life while pretending it was for my sake? That's not love, Jimin. That's dictatorship, dressed as devotion. Jimin barked a laugh that was anything but amused. Dictatorship? Don't you dare. You want to talk about control? Then tell them about your little rebellion, the substances you drowned in, the deals you whispered with men even filthier than the company. You thought I didn't know? You thought your midnight disappearances were invisible? I covered for you, Jungkook. I cleaned up your messes while you rotted yourself from the inside out. And now you want to call me the dictator? The stadium convulsed with screams, some fans clutching their mouths, others chanting Jungkook's name as if to erase what they'd just heard. Jungkook's voice shook with rage. You're crossing a line, Jimin. Good, Jimin spat back. Because that line was always a lie. You don't get to sit here on your high horse while I've been carrying the dirt of your sins for years. Do you want me to list them? Do you want me to tell them about the contract clause you signed in secret that would have cut the rest of us out of the profits? Or how you nearly walked away to start a solo career in America while the group bled here in Korea? Tell me, Jungkook, should I keep going? Gasps exploded like fireworks across the stadium. Fans collapsed into tears. Others screamed denial, and some shouted curses so sharp they sliced the air. Jungkook's breath came heavy, ragged. You think you're exposing me, but all you're doing is showing them how twisted we both are. Do you really want to let them see what idols look like without their masks? Because they'll never forgive us. They'll never see us as human. To them, we'll always be monsters. Jimin's eyes burned, his voice dropping to a near whisper, though every word was razor sharp. Maybe that's what we are. Monsters dressed in silk, puppets fed to a crowd that loves our cages. And maybe it's time they know. Maybe it's time they stop worshipping a lie. Jungkook's voice surged, filled with both defiance and pain. No, Jimin. You don't get to decide how this ends. You don't get to martyr yourself on stage and drag me down with you. If you want to confess, then confess it all. Tell them about us. Tell them what no one's supposed to know. Tell them the real reason you were willing to destroy everything. Jimin froze, his voice trembling with a fury that couldn't hide his fear. Don't you dare! Jungkook smirked bitterly, spitting the words like poison. Why not? They deserve to know that behind all the smiles, behind the staged brotherhood, we weren't just bandmates. We weren't just friends. You loved me. Jimin and I loved you back. And that's the dirtiest secret of them all, isn't it? The stadium detonated with screams, so violent the ground seemed to shake. Some fans collapsed into hysteria. Others shouted that it was impossible. But the truth had already spilled. Irreversible, searing through the illusion that had held for years. Jimin's voice cracked, raw and furious. You had no right to say that here. I had every right. Jungkook shot back. You wanted honesty? Then here it is. We weren't just idols trapped in contracts. We were lovers trapped in a prison that demanded our silence. You wanted me to bleed the truth? Fine. Let them choke on it. The crowd wailed, a sea of sobs, rage, heartbreak, and hysteria. The purity of their idols shattered in a single confession. The manager screamed. The company executives watching backstage cursed, but the microphone still carried the words across every speaker, every live stream, every corner of the world. Jimin's voice collapsed into something both broken and vicious. You just signed our death sentence, Jungkook. You've destroyed us. No, Jungkook said, his voice quieter now but brutal. You destroyed us the moment you sold my name. I'm just giving the world what's left. ChatGPT belong? Jimin's breath came ragged, his voice trembling with rage and humiliation. You think you're the victim? You think shouting about us will somehow redeem you? No, Jungkook. All you've done is prove to them that you're reckless, selfish, and desperate for pity. They'll eat you alive, and I'll watch. Jungkook's tone rose, cutting through the riot of screams. At least I'm not a coward. At least I'm not hiding behind contracts and secret meetings. You've been their favorite pawn from the start, Jimin. Do you think I didn't notice how they dangled you in front of cameras? How they used your desperation to keep the machine running? You didn't fight the system, you fed it. You loved the chains because they made you look like a savior. The crowd howled, a storm of disbelief and rage. Fans clashed with each other in the stands, half screaming that Jimin was a liar, half accusing Jungkook of betrayal. Jimin's voice cracked into something almost unhinged. You think I loved it? You think I enjoyed being their golden boy while they stripped me down piece by piece? Do you know what they made me do, Jungkook? Do you know how many times I had to sell myself in boardrooms and hotel rooms just to keep your name untouchable? Do you know how dirty my hands are because I protected you while they demanded more and more of me? The stadium screamed, as if stabbed in the heart, the image of their idol shattering in real time. The sound was deafening, not of adoration, but of chaos, disbelief, hysteria. Jungkook's voice faltered, but his fury refused to die. You let them use you like that? And you never told me? You think you could have handled it? Jimin spat, eyes blazing. You would have broken in a second. I kept my mouth shut because if you knew what they did to me, you would have burned the whole company down and taken yourself with it. I carried that filth so you could still smile on stage, so the fans could still believe in you. Jungkook shook his head violently, his voice trembling with both horror and rage. Don't twist this into some noble sacrifice. You let them exploit you, and you let me dance on top of your ashes like a fool. That's not love, Jimin, that's masochism wrapped in martyrdom. And now the whole world knows. Jimin's laugh cracked, bitter and broken. Good. Let them know. Let them choke on it. Let them see their idols aren't gods, they're merchandise, puppets, flesh sold to the highest bidder. You think we're heroes? No, Jungkook. We're whores dressed in sequins, and I'm done pretending otherwise. The silence that followed was unbearable. A silence filled with the weight of an entire industry collapsing on itself. Then Jungkook's voice cut through, sharper than a knife. If you were so broken, why didn't you leave me out of it? Why drag me into your self-destruction? You could have taken your secrets to the grave, but you couldn't resist, could you? You needed to bleed in public. You needed the world to see you burn. Jimin's voice dropped, soft but lethal. Because I wanted you to burn with me. Because I wanted you to feel the fire I've lived in all these years. Because if I can't escape it, neither can you. The fans shrieked, sobbing, fainting, tearing their banners apart. Some screamed that they hated Jimin. Others screamed that Jungkook was cruel. But all of them were drowning in the truth unraveling before their eyes. Jungkook's body shook with rage, his words pouring like venom. You're sick. You don't love me. You never did. You loved the power of holding me hostage with your pain. And now you're dragging us both to hell. Jimin smiled bitterly, his voice trembling like glass. Then, welcome to hell, Jungkook. Because it was never heaven to begin with. The lights above them flickered as though the universe itself recoiled from the confession. The entire stadium howling in disbelief. And yet neither man dropped the microphone. Neither surrendered. Jungkook's voice turned sharp, poisonous, no longer aimed only at Jimin, but at the invisible power lurking behind the curtains. And where are they now, huh? The company? The managers? Hiding backstage, watching us bleed, praying we shut up before their empire collapses. They built this circus, Jimin. They made us their products, their slaves, their whores, and now they're terrified the audience finally sees the blood under the glitter. The fans shrieked louder, many screaming accusations toward the company. The chants splitting into chaos, some defending the idols, others demanding the truth. Jimin's tone cut through the hysteria, raw and volatile. You think they'll let this go public? You think they'll let us walk off this stage alive after what we've said? No, Jungkook. They'll erase us. They'll destroy us, bury us, replace us. That's what they do to every idol who stops playing the obedient doll. The only difference is we just made our execution live entertainment. Jungkook barked a laugh, hollow and venomous. Maybe that's exactly what they deserve. Let them watch the empire burn in real time. Let every fan see what their worship feeds. An industry built on exploitation, manipulation, and silence. Do you hear them, Jimin? They're already turning on the company. For once, the chains aren't on us, they're on them. Jimin's voice cracked into something darker, half fury, half despair. Don't be naive. These fans don't want the truth. They want their illusion. They'll scream for us tonight, cry for us tomorrow, and then tear us apart the second the company tells them to. They'll call me a slut, they'll call you a junkie, they'll paint us as monsters to protect their precious dream. And the worst part? They'll believe it. The crowd roared. A storm of conflicting cries, some shouting denials, others already chanting words too cruel to ignore. Jungkook's tone dropped. Dangerous, defiant. Then let them see the monsters we really are. I'd rather be hated for the truth than worshipped for a lie. Jimin snapped, voice sharp as broken glass. You think it's that simple? You think you can survive hatred from millions? You think your name, your career, your life can outlast the machine once it turns against you? No, Jungkook. Hate doesn't free you, it kills you, and I'm already halfway there. The stadium froze under the weight of those words. Gasps tearing through the crowd like shrapnel. Jungkook's voice shook, but he pressed on, merciless. Then why drag me with you? Why confess your love, your deals, your shame here, in front of them? Was it really about freedom, Jimin, or was it about revenge? Did you want to punish me for not saving you from your own choices? Jimin's reply was venomous, spitting every word like fire. Yes, I wanted you to suffer. I wanted you to feel even a fraction of the humiliation I've swallowed for years while you lived untouched, adored, worshipped, like some flawless god. You think you carried pain? You were a fucking angel while I rotted. And tonight I made sure your wings burned with mine. The screams of the fans twisted into something feral, a storm of sobs, curses, and desperate cries. Some shouted they would never forgive Jimin. Others that they would never forgive Jungkook. But none of them could escape the poison of the truth unraveling before their eyes. Jungkook's fury finally cracked into raw agony. You wanted me to burn with you? Congratulations. You've destroyed us both. You've destroyed everything. Jimin's voice trembled, collapsing into something bitterly intimate despite the roar around them. No, Jungkook. I destroyed myself long ago. Tonight, I just refuse to die alone. The stadium quaked with hysteria. The perfect illusion of idols shattered, replaced with something ugly, human, dangerous. And still, neither of them let go of their microphones, daring the world to choke on every word. ChatGPT Bilang. Jungkook's voice rose again. This time not just a confession, but an indictment. You think it was only us? You think we're the only ones bleeding under their spotlight? No, Jimin. Every idol you've ever seen smiling on a screen has been broken the same way. Sold, silenced, blackmailed. And do you know who feeds it? Not just the company, the politicians, the media, the so-called guardians of culture. They all take their cut of our bodies, our voices, our souls. This isn't music, it's organized crime dressed as entertainment. The crowd shrieked in disbelief, but the hysteria was shifting. Fans were no longer just crying out of heartbreak. They were enraged, screaming curses at the industry. Some chanting for the truth, others collapsing under the weight of betrayal. Jimin's voice cracked like a whip, heavy with contempt. Don't stop there, Jungkook. Tell them how the media knew, how every journalist who pretended to protect idols was already bought, already silenced. Every glowing article about us, every cover photo, every stage scandal, it was all currency. They built us up so they could profit when they tore us down. They're not bystanders, they're predators. The fans screamed louder, many pulling out their phones, live streaming, their voices rising into chants against the press itself. Jungkook pressed forward, fury dripping into each word. And the politicians. The ones who smile while shaking our hands for photo ops pretending to celebrate culture. They sit in the same rooms as the executives, demanding their share of the profit, demanding access to us. They treat us like trophies they can touch, like bodies they can rent for their campaigns. This country's pride in its idols is nothing but legalized trafficking. And we're the proof standing here. The stadium roared like an earthquake. Fans screamed, some in denial, some demanding the names of politicians, some shouting for the government to answer. The atmosphere turned riotous, security unable to calm the frenzy. Jimin's voice turned venomous, shaking but unrelenting. Do you see, Jungkook? This was never about us. We're disposable. We were always disposable. They gave us to the world as heroes, then handed us to the wolves behind the curtain. And the worst part? They'll survive this. They'll erase us, rewrite us, replace us with the next generation of beautiful puppets. We'll be remembered not as victims, not even as lovers, but as traitors who spoke too much. Jungkook snapped back, fury spilling into recklessness. Then let's drag them down with us. Let's say their names. Let's tear the mask off every bastard who ever thought they owned us. If we're going to be executed, let's make sure the noose tightens around their necks first. Jimin's voice dropped into a whisper that felt sharper than any scream. You don't get it. Their power doesn't end with us. They'll kill our families. They'll kill anyone who tries to shield us. They'll bury fans who dare to defend us. This isn't just about survival, Jungkook. It's about blood. The stadium gasped, the fans crying out in terror and rage, some chanting that they would fight, others sobbing in fear of the implications. Jungkook's reply was brutal. Then let them kill me. I'd rather die screaming the truth than live another second as their property. Jimin's tone trembled, equal parts fury and despair.
You don't understand. You've never understood. They already own us. They've owned us from the start.
And the truth? He paused, his voice breaking into a confession so jagged it cut the air. We signed our death sentences the day we became idols. Everything since has been an execution in slow motion. The stadium screamed in hysteria. Some voices demanding revolution, others crying that this couldn't be real. But no one could unhear it. No one could unsee the idols they worshipped tearing the curtain apart. Jungkook's voice thundered one last time. Venomous, defiant, unstoppable. Then tonight, Jimin, the execution goes both ways. If we're going down, we're dragging every name, every face, every filthy hand that ever touched this industry with us into the fire. And the world will finally see what idols are really worth. The crowd howled, some in horror, some in feverish agreement, the stadium trembling under the weight of truths too explosive to contain. Jimin's voice cracked open, no longer laced with hesitation, but with the kind of rage that wanted blood. Fine, Jungkook. You want names? You want me to tear the mask completely? Let them hear it. Let the fans know who's been feeding off our bodies while they screamed our songs. Minister Kang. Yes, him. The cultural darling who waves the flag at award, shows he's the one who sat across from me and told me to smile while he signed away our contracts. He took my body as collateral. He promised the company protection from investigations if I complied. That's your patriotism. That's your national pride. The stadium exploded into shrieks of disbelief. Some fans collapsed in their seats. Others screamed curses into the night. Some demanded proof, but the tremor of rage was undeniable. Jungkook stepped forward, seizing the momentum with venom. And don't forget Congressman Lee. He paraded us in front of cameras, called us the face of Korea, then cornered me after events, whispering deals about private sponsorships that were nothing more than bribes. He's the one who tried to own my future, Jimin. He's the one who threatened my family if I didn't sign. So don't talk to me about sacrifice. You weren't the only one bleeding for survival. The fans roared in disbelief, some chanting names back, others screaming for resignations. The stadium felt less like a concert and more like a courtroom, an uprising ready to ignite. Jimin's voice shook, but he didn't back down. And the media, the so-called journalists who pretended to love us. Kim Seo-jin, the reporter who wrote glowing stories about our brotherhood. Do you want to know how he got them? By blackmailing us with photos he threatened to leak if we didn't comply. He already knew about us, Jungkook, about what we were. He held it over our heads for years while the company paid him to keep quiet. He didn't protect us. He owned us. The audience screamed louder, a wave of betrayal crashing through every corner of the stadium. Phones streamed live, hashtags already flooding the digital world. Jungkook's fury erupted, unstoppable. And it wasn't just the politicians or the press, it was the executives themselves. CEO Han, yes, him, the man who smiled on stage during our anniversaries, promising the world we were a family. He sold us like cattle. He took money from foreign investors to ship us out like merchandise. And when I refused, when I told him I wouldn't be their toy, he sent people to follow me, to threaten me, to remind me that my life wasn't mine anymore. That's who runs this empire. A pimp in a tailored suit. Gasps turned into chaos. Some fans screaming to storm the company, others shouting that they couldn't believe it, that their idols were destroying everything they loved. But the truth was afire now, and no one could put it out. Jimin's voice trembled, more dangerous than ever. And the fans don't act innocent. You loved the illusion more than us. You ignored the rumors, the bruises, the breakdowns, because you wanted gods, not men. You kept cheering while we were dying. You told us to be perfect while you bought the lies. And now you scream betrayal? No. You were part of the machine too. You demanded the sacrifice. The entire stadium convulsed, the noise almost violent. Some screamed apologies, others screamed denial. But the fracture between idol and fan was torn wide open. Jungkook's final words hit like a gunshot. This isn't just an expose. This is war. And if they want to erase us, let them try. But the blood won't just be ours anymore, it'll be theirs. Every politician, every journalist, every executive, every fan who turned away. Tonight, the empire dies with us. The stadium drowned in hysteria. Riots of screams, sobs, curses, and prayers colliding into a storm no one could control. And still, Jimin and Jungkook stood their ground, their microphones live, their truth burning the world to ash. The riot began the moment Jimin's last word left his mouth. Fans surged forward, some screaming their devotion, others spitting venom, hurling accusations that turned the stadium into a battlefield. Security lines broke instantly. Bodies clashed, fists swung, banners were torn to shreds. The manager shouted into radios, demanding the sound be cut. But the microphones still roared with Jimin and Jungkook's voices, every word amplified into chaos. Jungkook's tone was savage, unyielding. Look at them, Jimin. Look at the monsters. They become the moment their gods disappoint them. They don't want the truth. They want slaves to their fantasies. You said it yourself. These aren't fans. They're addicts. And we're the drug. Jimin's laugh was bitter, unhinged. Then let them overdose. Let them choke on the reality they've been too cowardly to face. They prayed to us like deities, demanded our perfection, demanded our bodies, demanded our silence. Tonight, I'm giving them what they asked for their idols destroyed in flames. The crowd's hysteria tore through the air, fans climbing barriers, rushing the stage, some sobbing and begging Jimin to take it back, others cursing Jungkook, screaming that he ruined everything. Jungkook's fury was relentless. No, Jimin, don't put this only on them. Put it where it belongs. On the men backstage hiding behind contracts. On the politicians watching this broadcast in fear. On the media leeches sharpening their knives. They're already rewriting this moment. Tomorrow's headlines will call us unstable, ungrateful, insane. They'll erase every name we spoke, every truth we screamed. They'll make sure history remembers us as villains, not victims. Jimin's voice shook but burned with reckless fire. Then let me make it unforgettable. Do you hear me? He turned toward the cameras. His voice, a dagger, aimed at the world beyond the stadium. If anything happens to me after tonight, if I disappear, if I'm silenced, it's them. The company, the ministers, the journalists. Their bloodied hands will be the proof. Don't you dare let them bury me as just another tragedy. Don't you dare let them erase me. The fans shrieked, some screaming that they would fight, others breaking down under the weight of his words. The entire stadium was no longer an audience, but a revolution teetering on the edge. Jungkook spat into the mic, voice feral. You think threats will save you? No, Jimin. They'll come for us no matter what. The company will make sure we never breathe outside these chains. So let's finish it. Let's do the one thing they can't erase. Let's burn this stage into history with something they'll never scrub from the record. Jimin's chest heaved, his words breaking but merciless. "And what's that, Jungkook? Our death?" The silence that followed was deafening, even as the riot raged. The fans froze, the weight of that word slicing into them like a blade. Jungkook's answer was brutal, his tone ice cold. "If it takes our blood to expose them, then yes. Better to die free than live another second as their fucking property." Screams shattered the air, some hysterical with denial, others wild with devotion, some chanting that they would die with them. Security was crushed by waves of fans flooding forward. The stage shook under the weight of bodies breaking through barriers. Jimin tilted his head toward Jungkook, his voice trembling between terror and exhilaration. "Then let's see if the world is ready to watch its idols crucified live." The crowd roared so violently it felt like the earth itself had split open, the line between performance and apocalypse obliterated. ChatGPT belang, the barricades collapsed, and the flood began. Fans climbed onto the stage, some screaming love confessions, others hurling curses, some clawing at the microphones to silence them. Security was swallowed whole, fists and banners clashing, the stadium no longer a venue but a war zone. Screams overlapped with chants. "Traitors! Truth! Die with us!" And every second stretched into madness. Jimin's voice cut through like a blade. "Do you see it now, Jungkook? This is the truth of fandom. They don't want us. They want possession. They want our flesh, our souls, our deaths to validate their obsession. We were never loved. We were consumed." Jungkook snarled back into the mic, unflinching even as fans surged toward him. "Then let them consume me. Let them take every last piece if it means the world finally sees the rot. But I won't bow. Not to them, not to the company, not to anyone. If they want my corpse, they'll get it with my middle finger raised." The mob howled, a feverish mix of worship and rage. Some tried to shield them, wrapping themselves around the idols. Others tore at their clothes, demanding explanations, demanding retractions. The stage groaned under the weight of bodies, and still the microphones screamed with confessions that no one could stop. Jimin's words were venomous, almost gleeful. "Then let's end the fantasy. Do you hear me? Every idol you've ever loved, every perfect smile, every choreographed bow, it's all been bought, sold, or stolen. There are no gods on stage, only slaves dressed in glitter. And tonight, those slaves are burning the temple down." Gasps broke through the chaos, but Jungkook roared over them, spitting the most dangerous truth yet. "And don't you dare call this art anymore. This isn't music, it's propaganda. Funded by corrupt ministers, used to distract you while they pocket your taxes and steal your rights. We were tools in their circus, dressed as patriotism. And you cheered while they shackled us." The crowd erupted into hysteria, some chanting against the government, others screaming that they were liars. The noise was apocalyptic, but Jimin only doubled down, his voice cutting raw. "Yes, scream louder. Scream for the blood you demanded. You wanted our sacrifice, our perfection, our purity. Now choke on the truth that you were complicit in our destruction. Don't tell me you love us. You loved the machine that killed us. And tonight, it kills you too." The fans went berserk. Some leapt onto the stage to kiss their shoes, to beg forgiveness, while others spat at them, swearing they would end them for destroying the illusion. The cameras broadcasted everything worldwide, no censorship fast enough to contain the avalanche. Jungkook turned to Jimin, his tone harsh, unrelenting. "If this is our last stage, let's make it unforgettable. No encores, no apologies, just the raw truth carved into history." Jimin's response was a whisper sharpened into a weapon. "Then let's bleed for it." And as the riot raged, as fans fought fans, as security lost control, as the world watched in horror, Jimin and Jungkook stood in the center of the storm. Their microphones still live, daring the empire to silence them with death if that was the price of freedom. The crack of canisters hitting the ground split the frenzy, clouds of tear gas spilling into the stadium. Screams turned guttural as fans choked, stumbled, and clawed at the air. Yet the microphone still carried Jimin's and Jungkook's voices across the chaos. Riot police stormed in lines, shields clashing, batons raised, bodies dragged and beaten as the stage transformed into a scene no one had imagined witnessing in a concert. Jimin coughed, voice raw but defiant. "Do you see it now? They don't protect you. They don't protect us. They protect the empire. Every strike of their batons, every cloud of this poison, it's proof that we were never free. You aren't fans to them. You're cattle. And we were the bait to keep you docile. Jungkook's voice thundered, daring the world to look away. Remember this. Remember who sent the police against children who only wanted music. It wasn't us. It wasn't you. It was the ministers, the executives, the very men who raped this industry into existence. Minister Kang, Congressman Lee, CEO Han, reporter Kim. Every single name we spit tonight marked them as the criminals, not us. The riot police advanced, beating back fans who tried to protect their idols. Some shielded Jimin and Jungkook with their own bodies, taking blows meant for them, while others screamed at them to stop, to shut up before it was too late. Jimin's fury escalated into something terrifying. No, let them kill me here. Let them break my bones on live broadcast, because then the whole world will finally know what it costs to create your perfect idols. Blood, fear, rape, lies. That's the currency of this industry. Let them spill mine so the truth can never be denied again. The officers closed in, surrounding the stage like hunters circling prey. Jungkook ripped the mic from its stand, his voice a war cry. You want blood? Take mine too. But know this, you can silence my voice, but not the millions watching right now. They'll remember every name we cursed. They'll see every tear, every bruise, every fan trampled tonight. And when this empire burns, it will be by their hands, not ours. The first blow landed, a baton cracking against Jungkook's back, the sound echoing through the speakers. Gasps erupted. Screams of rage and despair filled the stadium. But Jungkook refused to fall, raising the microphone again. Strike harder, you cowards. Show the world the cost of obedience. Show them the truth carved into my body. Jimin roared beside him, his voice broken but unrelenting. This stage is our gallows and your confession. Every strike, every drop of blood, every tear of gas is proof that idols are not stars, we're sacrifices. Fans surged again, some charging the police with bare hands, others collapsing in despair. The scene devolving into an unfiltered revolution, broadcast across every screen. The empire was bleeding, its immaculate facade cracking under the weight of two voices that refused to die quietly. ChatGPT Balang. They came for them like predators. Shields pressed forward, batons swinging without restraint, boots slamming against the stage as if the two idols were enemies of the state. Fans shrieked, some throwing themselves in the line of fire, only to be beaten back. Their devotion punished with brutality. Cameras captured everything, police dragging teenagers by their hair, blood smearing across the floor, microphones still blaring Jimin's and Jungkook's voices through the madness. Jimin was seized first, arms wrenched behind him so violently he screamed. Yet his voice didn't crack into begging it, sharpened into accusation. Remember their names. Minister Kang ordered this. CEO Han signed the contract that sold our bodies. Reporter Kim wrote the lies that killed our brothers. Look at me. If I die tonight, their hands are stained with my blood. The officers slammed him to his knees, but the mic still caught every syllable, echoing across the collapsing stadium. Fans roared with rage and despair, some breaking through barricades to claw at the riot police, others sobbing that their idol was being crucified before their eyes. Jungkook fought like a man possessed, 3 officers trying to restrain him as he thrashed, his voice still shattering through the sound system. Is this your democracy? Beating artists on stage because they spoke the truth? Is this your love for music? Poisoning fans with gas while the world watches? If you drag us like criminals, then let history record this. Idols were prisoners, and tonight, the prisoners broke the chains. A baton struck his ribs, a wet crack audible, yet his laugh was jagged and merciless. Do it harder. Show the children watching what their heroes endure behind the glitter. Break me so the world knows what you've always done to us in silence. The officers forced him down beside Jimin, pressing their faces into the stage. But even with microphones slipping from their hands, their voices carried raw and unstoppable. Jimin's tone burned like prophecy. You can gag us, you can cage us, you can bury us, but you can't erase the truth we already spilled. Tonight the illusion died. Tonight the fans saw your empire naked, bleeding, and guilty. Jungkook's words tore through the air as they jammed cuffs onto his wrists. And if we vanish after this, if we're found hanging, overdosed, or smiling in forced apologies, don't believe it. Remember this moment. Remember, we named them. Don't mourn us. Burn them. The world watched idols dragged like corpses across the stage, fans lunging and weeping, police crushing them without mercy. It was no longer a concert. It was a public execution broadcast live, the mythology of perfection ripped apart under floodlights and batons. ChatGPT Balang. The broadcast cut, but the damage was irreversible. Clips of the screams, the beatings, Jimin's curses, and Jungkook's defiance flooded the internet within minutes. Platforms tried scrubbing the footage, striking down uploads, but the harder they tried, the faster it spread. Hashtags erupted like wildfire. Idols are slaves, blood on their hands, justice for Jimin Jungkook. Fans who once fought each other now united in fury. Not against idols, but against the machine that had orchestrated their suffering. The government statement came fast, stiff, and rehearsed, labeling the two as unstable performers who endangered public safety. They painted the chaos as hysteria fueled by delusion, dismissing the accusations as fabrications. But no one bought it. Too many had seen the blood, the broken ribs, the cuffs, the tear gas suffocating children. The streets of Seoul filled within hours, not with fans holding banners of love, but with citizens chanting the names of the men Jimin and Jungkook had cursed live on stage. Media fractured. State-owned outlets called them traitors, warning that idols were being weaponized by foreign interests. But independent journalists refused the script, publishing exposés that confirmed everything. Exploitation contract, systémique abuse, even political bribes tied to entertainment companies. Every headline screamed betrayal. Every leak fueled the fire. What had been marketed as a flawless cultural export was exposed as a crime syndicate dressed in sequins. International networks joined in, airing censored footage with blurred faces, but the raw clips still circulated underground, uncut, unfiltered, undeniable. Western commentators, once blind worshippers, now asked the forbidden question: had the K-pop dream always been a prison masked as paradise? Meanwhile, fans were not just tweeting, they rioted. Concert venues were stormed, company buildings vandalized, government offices besieged with chants. In Tokyo, Los Angeles, Paris, and Sao Paulo, crowds gathered holding signs that read, "We saw the truth." It was no longer about music. It was a rebellion against an entire empire of control. Inside secret detention, Jimin and Jungkook were silenced, their whereabouts hidden. Rumors swirled that they were beaten unconscious, that they'd been drugged, that they were already dead. But their last words kept circulating, their defiance immortalized in millions of reposts. The system tried to erase them, but erasure only amplified them. Then came the most controversial whisper, spreading like poison in the veins of the internet. Other idols knew. Screenshots leaked of messages, cryptic confessions from those still performing under contracts, hinting they too were trapped, too terrified to speak. Fans began questioning every stage, every smile, every lyric. Who else was a victim? Who else was complicit? The empire trembled, but the machine did not stop. New idols were pushed forward, plastered with empty smiles, marketed as pure replacements. Yet the audience no longer looked with awe. They looked with suspicion, hunger for cracks, waiting for another eruption. The glossy illusion was poisoned. ChatGPT Balang. It happened during a harmless variety show, the kind designed to distract audiences with laughter and games. The cameras rolled, the idols sat in their perfect rows, and the script was lighthearted until one of them, a boy barely 20, suddenly refused to play along. He tore off his earpiece, ignoring the frantic producers, and his voice cut raw into the broadcast. You think Jimin and Jungkook lied? No. Every word they screamed was true. We are not artists, we are property. They feed us pills to keep us awake, starve us to keep us thin, force us to smile while they threaten our families. I've been molested by the CEO everyone here bows to. And you still clap for us? You're clapping for our executioners. The studio froze, staff shouting off camera, but he wouldn't stop. His voice rose higher, his body shaking, every syllable a bullet. I've seen idols locked in hospital rooms with slit wrists, only to be shoved back on stage 2 days later. I've seen girls forced into rooms with politicians twice their age, told their careers depended on keeping quiet. I've seen boys beaten until their teeth fell out because they asked for a day off. And you want to talk about comebacks? This isn't entertainment. This is slavery televised. The feed cut abruptly to commercials, but the damage was already irreversible. Clips hit the internet before the censors could breathe. Fans didn't just cry, they rioted harder, screaming for blood. They demanded resignations, arrests, the dismantling of entire companies. Government offices were pelted with rocks, and overseas fans protested outside embassies. What terrified the empire most was that other idols started cracking. Cryptic posts appeared on private fan sites. Some idols went silent, some vanished from the public eye, and some posted messages so nakedly desperate that fans couldn't pretend anymore. One wrote, "If I disappear tomorrow, don't believe the headlines. Believe Jimin." Another, "They already drugged me twice. I don't know how long I can hold on." Suddenly, every music show looked like a hostage situation. Every stage performance felt like a confession waiting to explode. Fans scrutinized every lyric, every glance, convinced hidden messages were buried in plain sight, and sometimes they were. Lines suddenly carried double meaning. Choruses twisted into cries for help. Audiences no longer screamed out of love, they screamed out of terror, as if their idols might collapse at any moment. The government tried to clamp down harder, branding Jimin Jungkook, and now the whistleblower idol, as agents of foreign destabilization. But people were past believing. Conspiracy forums exploded with claims of cover-ups, missing idols, falsified suicides, black vans outside dormitories at night. The once untouchable empire of pop was crumbling under the weight of its own secrets. And in the shadows of this implosion, one chilling phrase started circulating among fans and insiders alike, whispered on forums and painted on protest signs. If they silence idols, who will they silence next? They called the fandom a terrorist cell. State TV plastered images of teenagers waving banners, labeling them extremists, criminals, foreign agents. Police raided fan cafes, confiscated phones, dragged high school girls out of their bedrooms in the dead of night. Parents were threatened with prison if their children kept posting clips of Jimin and Jungkook. Entire online communities were shut down, hashtags erased within seconds, but each deletion only bred more rage. Fans started organizing like insurgents, using VPNs, code words, burner accounts. What once was a fandom became a resistance. Then came the leaks. Grainy, shaky footage, smuggled out by someone inside the system, spread across dark forums before exploding onto mainstream platforms. The videos were worse than anyone imagined. Idols shackled in rehearsal rooms, crying as managers screamed slurs and threw bottles. A girl group locked in a dormitory, begging to be let out, while men barged in with cameras. A boy, his face swollen, whispering that he was told to smile tomorrow or disappear. The empire tried to brand the clips as deepfakes. But even loyal fans recognized the voices, the tattoos, the scars. It was undeniable. And then the most damning leak surfaced. Footage of executives laughing while reviewing auditions, discussing which girls were ripe enough to be offered to politicians. It was no longer entertainment, it was organized abuse, systematized and monetized. Protected by the government itself, protests turned into uprisings. Fans chained themselves to company buildings, broke through glass doors, spray-painted walls with names of abusers. Internationally, boycotts swelled, investors fled, but the government doubled down. Riot police shot tear gas into crowds of children carrying light sticks. Universities banned pro-idol protests. Schools expelled students for wearing merchandise. The fandom had been rebranded as an enemy of the state, and yet the more they cracked down, the more unstoppable the movement became. Kids who had never cared about K-pop now marched in solidarity, holding placards that read, "If they can do this to idols, they can do it to us." Former staff began speaking anonymously, their voices trembling as they admitted what they'd seen. Overdoses covered up, idols locked in padded rooms, contracts written in blood. A chilling rumor spread through the underground. Jimin and Jungkook were not only alive, but being held in a black site, tortured for information on who helped leak the videos. No one knew if it was true, but it was enough to ignite fire. Every protester screamed their names as if summoning them back, as if refusing to let them vanish. The empire had underestimated one thing. Idols had been designed to be worshipped, and once their voices were turned against the empire, worship transformed into revolution. The same machine that once created obedience had manufactured its own downfall. It erupted outside the embassies first: Seoul, Washington, London, Paris, Berlin. What began as candlelight vigils turned into riots when armed police moved in. Molotovs lit the night sky. Flags burned, and chants of "Free the Idols" echoed across continents. For the first time, governments that had shamelessly consumed the K-wave as cultural capital were forced to confront the rot underneath. Foreign ministers couldn't ignore the blood-soaked images of teenagers being clubbed while clutching nothing but posters of their heroes. South Korea's government doubled down, calling it an attack on sovereignty, claiming foreign forces were weaponizing idols to destabilize the nation. But then, something snapped. A leaked diplomatic cable revealed that several ministers had personally profited from trafficking idols into political sex rings. It wasn't just an entertainment scandal anymore, it was state corruption, institutional abuse, and international human rights crisis. Foreign governments broke silence. The UN demanded access to investigate alleged crimes against humanity within the entertainment industry. The United States threatened sanctions unless Jimin and Jungkook were produced alive. European leaders publicly called the treatment of idols modern slavery. Suddenly, the industry that once represented Korea's pride was now its shame, paraded on every global headline.